So I am the co-creator of the Millennial Womanism Project. And part of my work in Millennial Womanism is trying to think about in what ways can womanism as a platform extend its work to not just kind of conversations within academic circles or even within church spaces as they move to kind of faith communities, but in the public square, right? How are we communicating about issues of eradicating oppression and so forth in social media and in other things? So I framed this around 4 things that I think that a womanist preaching in a millennial age must have. It must be radically loving. Part of that is this sense that we live in what I call the call-out culture, right? That is built around, and there is a virtue in calling out the issues, right? We ought to call out racism and sexism, right? And we ought to call out homophobia, right? And we ought to call out classism, right? And oppression, right? But sometimes this call-out culture leads to just calling out people, right? In order to embarrass or harangue them. So we have to find this delicate balance in not kind of leading to the call out because we're unafraid to call folk in, right? To have these necessary, intimate dialogue conversations. Not only are we a part of the call-out culture, but we're also a part of the cut-off culture, right? Where everyone wants to brag about, I let this person go to the left, everything you own in a box to the left, right? That we're constantly removing folk out of our lives, right? And not thinking about how can we struggle, right, with each other, right, in difficult moments. How can we really create meaningful, intimate relationships with each other that give folk time to evolve and give folk grace, right, to stand. Now, I understand safety is important. If someone is abusing you, of course, that's not the conversation. We're speaking to a love that liberates, right, a love that frees us, a love that is to life. But can we struggle through difficult conversations and difficult moments with each other in ways that don't just cut folk off, right? And then we live in a cast aside culture. You don't like it? Cast it aside, right? And often we see this happening, right, in our churches. Someone gets upset with you the next day, we don't see the person the next Sunday, right? Knowing that this culture says if it's not working for you, push it to the side. I am not naive, right, that the church has its problems, right? We got too much sexism and patriarchy, right, that informs a good old boys club, right? We got too much lazy preaching, right, and bad membership. We have too much, right, too many issues, right, within our church, and we can go on, right? But there is a way in which we ought not cast aside, right, traditions, particularly faith traditions that have informed or birthed us, right, that have nurtured us. And so radical love speaks to this concept of how can we think about continuing to widen our circle, bringing folk in rather than pushing them out, right? And in fact, radical love for me is on top, much like Beyonce says, got my love on top, baby, right? It is essential that our work, our witness, our preaching, even as we call out sometimes, comes from a deep, profound love, right? That's why Micah says, do justice and love mercy, right? Or love mercifully. This is a kind of, again, a struggle with our love for each other. Justice seeking, right? A womanist preaching in a millennial age is concerned with this question of justice, right? And not justice in the way that has become so bland that we don't even understand what it is anymore, but justice in the form that oppression cannot have the last word, right? This again points back to that radical subjectivity in re-understanding ourselves and these texts, not by the victim, but by the victors. And then wisdom bearing. Wisdom bearing, again, goes back to this sense that the wise are not just the elder, right? The wise can also be the children, right? The child shall lead them, right? So there are ways in which we can negotiate how to seek and find and to understand the wisdom that exists in multiple generations, right? And to seek that wisdom. And then truth-telling, right? This goes back to Teresa Fry Brown's notion of honest, right, radical engagement. If you want to understand millennial communities, again, vulnerability and transparency starts with truth-telling, right? Being honest with ourselves as preachers, right? And who we are and what we bring to the text, right? Being honest about who we are and what we bring to this vocation, right? And then being honest and living a witness, right? That is vulnerable and transparent to even our parishioners. Questions? I see them. Yeah.
So what happens in this woman is preaching in the middle age, trying to do radical loving, when there is no reciprocity of care and concern? That you're trying to radically love someone, and they will not and cannot hear what you're saying or reciprocate that love.
Yeah, I mean, we have to go back to Walker's definition. Loves herself regardless, right? And there is a sense that to struggle sometimes with this love does not mean to put oneself in harm's way. That's why she also says, Walker says, not a separatist, but for health's sake. Meaning, at points, right, there may mean that I need to redirect or find another way or detach because it is harmful to my health. But if it's not, I'm going to try to struggle with it, right? I'm going to try to deal within the mess sometimes in order to make good creation. That's what God did, right?